Greetings folks and welcome to the Electromaker podcast. This is your roundup of all things maker and embedded and lovely, albeit in audio format. This is the second of several shows I've been recording on location as I am busy traveling with my family at the minute, which means that this is very much an outside recording. I'm recording this introduction indoors, but outside you will be hearing the background sounds of trees and birds and all of this kind of stuff. I've done my best to make it sound as nice as possible, but there's no point in trying to remove any of that stuff. It always ends up sounding terrible. So yes, I hope that you find that okay. It's not your average podcast sound, but I think I've done a decent enough job at making it sound all right. This week's show, we're back to a very nice standard idea of how the Electromaker Show works. We're going to look at some wonderful projects. We have some funding website things. We have a new product of the week, which is an incredible rugged soil moisture and temperature sensor with LoRaWAN capabilities and a 10-year battery life. And we'll be looking at a couple of other things as well. Before we do get started, as always, if you would like to support us, head to the Electromaker shop at www.electromaker.io/shop, where you will find a wide variety of absolutely everything to do with our maker and embedded sphere. Speaking of embedded spheres, also thank you to Embedded World for sponsoring a single section of this show, where we talk about the Embedded World Conference, which is coming up rather soon as well. I think that's everything for this introduction, so with all of that out of the way, let us get on with this week's show. We are going to start this week's show with a trio of projects from the Electromaker Project Hub. And yes, I am going very analog for filming this show because I can't really have a screen in front of me. But I quite liked the process of going through everything for the show and writing it down in a book. I might actually continue doing this. But anyway, we're going to start with Tomasz of Mellow Labs. Now, we've featured Mellow Labs on the Electromaker Show many times before. He has a wonderful YouTube channel that you should definitely check out. He has basically turned everything in his flat that isn't smart into a smart device, including his washing machine, even his bin. And the latest device that he is working on, or has worked on and has a video for, is a sensor that works out whether your laundry is dry or not. Now, before we go on, do check out his channel. Like I said, there's a bunch of videos like this. There's also some which are a little bit different. Like, for example, those humidifiers that you can buy that spit out nice steam to humidify the room that use ultrasonics inside. He showed you how you could build one of those for just a couple of dollars. And of course, that means you can make it entirely your own design. It would be a really fun thing to give someone as a gift, I imagine. Anyway, a slight distraction there. So, a laundry sensor that detects whether something is dry. On the communications and brain side of things, we have an ESP32. That is using ESP Home to speak to Home Assistant. Now, I haven't got much hands-on experience with ESP Home, but from everything I've heard about it, it's just an incredibly easy way to work with an ESP32, especially if you're not really much of a programmer. The idea of just being able to stick this ESP Home firmware on it and then use, I think it's YAML or maybe it's JSON, to say exactly what it should do and how it should talk to Home Assistant will make things a lot easier for people who are more interested in that side of things than really spinning things up in a DIY sense. But what you have there is an ESP that will talk to Home Assistant, and then Home Assistant will do something with the data that it sends. But what data is that? Well, essentially resistance, because as Tomasz points out, wet clothes have, I believe, a lower resistance than dry clothes. I may have got that the wrong way around. Oh, no, it must be that way around. So what Tomasz did is 3D print his own special clamps that he can clamp onto his laundry and use copper tape in order to essentially make little resistance sensors that can pass through his laundry and detect whether it is dry or not. Now, of course, this is not an exact science, but in a way it kind of is. And I could imagine a world where someone would use these kind of clamps and do some very clever AI trickery to really work out when something is bone dry or not. In my case, I'd probably just take the thing that is going to take the longest to dry and then put the clamp on that, because that resistance is all being measured in the ESP32 and then sent to Home Assistant where it is beautifully visualized. And of course, once it's in Home Assistant, you can do 1,000,001 things with it. You could set it out to have your laundry drying and have it send you an alert on your phone when the laundry is dry, for example. It's a fantastic project, and the entire build is available on our Project Hub, which will of course be linked below. Moving on to Eamon Magd, and he's been on the show at least once before, because I believe we talked about his Stroop Waffle Doneness measuring device, which may not be the correct title for it, but that's essentially what it did. You put a Stroop waffle on top of your cup and it will measure exactly how soft it is and whether it's time to bite into it or not, which is a wonderful, crazy use of an Arduino. Well, this time he's back with a post about a Halloween prop he made for a friend this year. Essentially essentially, for Halloween, someone decided to go as a wizard. They had a wizard staff, and the staff itself looks quite cool as it is. It's a staff with a light on the top of it, but he used an Arduino to add a few extra features to it. These features include an LED strip for changing colors, a little LCD screen that reads one of 3 types of fortunes: positive, negative, or neutral, magic 8-ball style. They're very vague answers to whatever question you want to give it. There's also a buzzer on it to give a little bit of sound, and a vibration sensor. The idea being that when you move the staff, it will trigger it. So in the video, as you will see posted on the page, and I suggest you watch it, Eamon has a really fun way of putting his videos together. I really do like this intersection of comedy and makerness that seems to have come out of the William Osman / Michael Reeves sphere. Yeah, his video shows that there's a really nice kind of side to it, which is if you put it in front of someone, especially someone who's maybe had a couple of drinks, get them to ask something, you can just give it a subtle shake and it will give the impression that the staff has actually listened to them, then give them their magic 8-ball type of answer. So as always, it's a very fun thing to see Arduinos and all this kind of stuff being used in projects for Halloween. I really do love that element of it. It's the one time of year when I think that people who really should be into cosplay actually do stuff and realize, oh yeah, I could totally be making cosplay costumes, and then not get around to doing it. That's been my experience, at least over the years. But the other side to this is that this is a fantastic Arduino beginner project just in general, because most of the things used in this project are the kind of things you would find in a beginner kit, or are very cheap to get sensors that can work via I2C or whatever. You wouldn't need necessarily a lot of soldering. A lot of jumper wires can do it. And yeah, Arduino vibration sensors, LCD screens, buzzers, and the code available on the Project Hub make this a really fun one to build for yourself and learn a lot of great Arduino beginner skills at the same time. Now we're going to return to Donuts or Else, who has put a lot of fantastic stuff up on the Project Hub over time. Recently they had an AI tour guide that worked using a Blues note card to get your location, then send that location into a large language model that would tell you stuff about the area that you were in. A really interesting project. I don't think we actually featured it on the show because he put it up in the Gulf where I wasn't actually putting out shows, but I did put it up on social media, and of course you can find it on his hub page on our Project Hub. Anyone who's in our Project Hub, if you click on their name, you can see all of the projects listed that they've put up there with us. Now this one uses some of that tech. It keeps the Blues note card for GPS GPS positioning, and cellular communication, and it pairs it with an ESP32 in order to make a Lord of the Rings inspired cloak. And yes, we have 2 parallel thought Halloween Lord of the Rings-esque kind of things if the wizard staff is indeed Gandalf, but wizard equals Gandalf in my mind. Anyway, this is a Sting cape, but rather than Sting, the mythical sword from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings that lights up when orcs are nearby, this is a Sting cape that lights up and tells you what the weather is going to be like 15 minutes from now. Now, the build consists of an LED strip inside a cape, and it's just a bare LED strip because this is a prototype, this is a proof of concept. But of course, once you've got this thing working, you could use conductive thread, you could use much nicer diffused LEDs, you could come up with 1,000,001 different ways of doing this. However, the cape itself goes over your shoulders, and the light inside it changes color depending on whether it's going to be sunny or rain or windy or stormy, and all of that data is collected via an API through the Blues note card with an ESP32 as the brains. Now, once again, I consider this to be a wonderful project if you are not even necessarily a beginner. This would work in a sort of intermediate sense as well. So using the Blues note card is obviously a really nice touch because it means this thing will work absolutely anywhere. But if you were to try and do something like this at home, there are various APIs out there that if you give them a location, it will give you the weather that is predicted for that location. So you wouldn't necessarily need to do this as a wizard cape that is out there somewhere. You could just have a LED strip set up somewhere in your house attached to a computer or a Raspberry Pi or something that takes weather data and gives you a quick visual representation of what the weather is going to be doing in the next hour, in the next 6 hours or something like that. There's a number of ways you can work with this. And in fact, I think one of the pivotal things for me when I was learning how to do any of this was using APIs and making it attached to something. I never got it working really well, but one of my projects that I really loved that I never had the chance to write up was a little turret that I got from AliExpress that just has 2 servos and that allows you to point something in any direction. I stuck a laser pen on that and then used an API to find out exactly where in the world the International Space Station was, so that the laser turret could just always point in my room exactly where the International Space Station was. Unfortunately, it never pointed exactly in the right direction because it was very early in my maker career, but it's just an example of how using an API with a microcontroller and some hardware can be a really good way of fixing all of the bits together in your head for learning the very basics of getting started with hardware and coding. Man, I hope the sound of the crickets in the background and the birds isn't bothering anybody, but I absolutely love it. This is probably the nicest place I've ever shot a show, and it's only going to get nicer from here. Now, towards the end of last year, we started a competition to win an ESP32 C6 development kit from Espressif. And that competition started and ended. It was actually announced in the comments of the YouTube video that it was on, who won it, but I haven't actually got around to speaking about it in the show, so we're going to do that right now. So, in short, the winner was JimBob1353 with a comment that says, "I'm new to the maker end of computing, but I have 30 years of programming and PM experience. I just found your feed today and would love to win an ESP32 C6 dev kit. I just got my first Arduino board for Christmas. As for what I want to do with it, one thought was to try and port PyOBD and build an OBD, which is an onboard diagnostic tool for vehicles. My brother is a mechanic and I've always thought it was highway robbery what he has to pay for his. I'm not saying I'd build a commercial product, but I think it would be a fun idea," which is entirely the point. I love that. We're not all trying to build commercial projects. For the most part, I do pretty much everything in my life for the vibes. Yes, this is the perfect thing for you to be able to mess around and try and work with that. The C6 is really interesting for a number of reasons, and the original post that Robin put out about it, he emphasized the fact that it's a perfect board for learning about RISC-V development, because it is a RISC-V chip. My take on it is just that it's a thread certified and Matter ready board that would be the perfect way to learn about the Matter protocol and set up your own smart home. There's a lot you could do with it. So yes, Jim Bob, congratulations. We have already been in touch with you as to how we can get this out to you. As to anyone else who entered the competition, fear not, because we have another Product of the Week competition starting today. Just a quick reminder that the Electromaker Show is entirely funded by the Electromaker store. We don't turn adverts on YouTube at all. We don't have any adverts in our podcast, if you are one of the podcast listeners as well. We fund everything through our own store and the occasional sponsored segment. As you've seen, we're doing the odd, little sponsored segments with Embedded World right now. But if you do want to support us, one of the best ways you can do that is by choosing to shop with us when you start your next hobby project, or maybe when you need 10,000 of something very specific for work. If you head to electromaker.io/shop, you can find our full product catalog there, and of course numbers at the top to get in touch with our sales team if you want to do that directly as well. Also, usual YouTube McGubbins apply. Please make sure that you are subscribed to this channel, that you have liked this video, and if you do like the video, also leave a comment saying why. I do really enjoy hearing from all of you, and to be honest, the comments I get on these videos and the ideas that you guys have for projects and our project hub are kind of my favorite part of this job. So yeah, it would please me a lot if you would tell me the things I get right on the show, and especially the things I get wrong, because I'm always looking to do this a little bit better than I already do. Our product of the week this week is from Seed Studio, and it is the SenseCap S2104. Now, this is essentially a LoRaWAN transceiver with a soil temperature and moisture sensor attached to it. But what makes it special is the fact that it is ruggedized. It is an IP66 rated device, which means that it is like dust and water just will not touch it. You can leave this thing outside and it will be fine. And the battery life on it is up to 10 years on a single charge, which is incredible. Now, LoRaWAN has a theoretical range of about 10 kilometers. And I say theoretical because that's line of sight with everything going well. But even in built-up urban environments, it's been shown to work at about 1.5 to 2.5 kilometers of range, which is quite wild, really. And usually this is the kind of thing that you would find costing tens of thousands of dollars, only being used in large-scale agriculture. But this is a Seed Studio product, so the price is a lot less. Yes, traditionally where these things have cost thousands upon thousands of dollars, this thing costs around $130. I think the last time I checked in the store, it was $129, but I can't remember if that might be 129 euros. Either way, we're talking an order of magnitude cheaper than the thing you'd usually expect to pay for something like this, putting it well within the range of people who are wanting to use it for their home gardens. Anyway, as always, this is really what Robin should be talking to you about, as he's the one who's made the Product of the Week video, and you can find that in the description of this video, along with the full written article about the SenseCap. The SenseCap idea from Seed Studio is something I really like. I have one of the little card versions they have of it, which is just a LoRaWAN device designed to be a general purpose tool with a button on it. You can use it as a locator, you can use it as a warning device. The one I have has a GPS locator on it as well, so you can use it for various things. It's a fun little dev kit. But this implementation of it is really quite interesting. And yeah, anything that's IP66 rated with a 10-year battery life completely changes the game if you want to get into your own kind of monitoring, because it allows it to be used in exactly the same way as ruggedized industrial and commercial products. But that does remind me, this is the Product of the Week, isn't it? Which means we are going to be giving one away. So yes, if you would like to win a SenseCap S2104, all you need to do is head to the Product of the Week video that you will find in the description here, where you'll hear Robin talking all about it, and look for the pinned comment, and it will tell you how to enter. All you need to do is tell you what your use case for this thing would be if you did win it, and leave the hashtag SenseCap, all one word, no spaces. And we will be picking a winner for that in the next couple of shows. All of our competitions are completely picked at random, but I do want to hear what you would make if you did actually win this thing, because that's one of my favorite things to hear about on this show. So yes, we'll be announcing that in just a little while. Good luck everyone who enters. Embedded World 2025 is just around the corner, and they are sponsoring this section of the show because we've been going to Embedded World for quite a while, and we've been reporting from the floor there for a while. And if you've never been before, it is a massive conference that happens in Nuremberg in Germany, although they have events in America and China as well, which is essentially everything from the embedded world in one place. It's a well-named conference in that respect. And it really is everything. Whether you're into embedded computing, like single board computers, there's pretty much everyone who makes those will be showing something there. And if you've ever been interested, for example, in the NVIDIA line of Jetson Orin boards, you will see a bunch of examples of it being used in the kind of use cases that it would be used in. But right down to things like the kind of connectors you connect wires to your board with, or exactly how you're going to make the housing work for your device. All of these things are covered at Embedded World. But one of the things I wanted to talk about just now is the microcontrollers that we've seen announced or demonstrated at Embedded World in the time that we've been going there. So things like, for example, the very first look at the Arduino Nano Matter. At the Silicon Labs stand, we got to see that thing in action before it had even actually been sent out, I believe, to people who got the very early prototype versions to test. It was a very early demo, but it was the very first time we'd seen it in action, and they had a fully working Matter demo which combined the Arduino Nano Matter board with another Silicon Labs board, I think which shared a microcontroller, both working using Matter over Wi-Fi. We also got to see video being sent over Wi-Fi and Bluetooth simultaneously, courtesy of Nordic Semiconductor, because they had a setup with their NRF5340, the flagship Bluetooth low energy controller they had at the time, with the NRF7002, which had only just been announced, which is their Wi-Fi 6 IC that you can attach onto it. And they had a very interesting demo, basically showing how you can, using a buffer with a little bit of latency, you can send simultaneous video over Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Why you would want to do that, I have no idea, but it was incredibly interesting, and I got to speak with the person who designed and came up with that project on the floor there, and they could talk me through it, which was really interesting. We saw Texas Instruments showing a super high efficiency HVAC system featuring the venerable C2000 microcontroller, which is for controlling motors. And it's a really interesting thing because that microcontroller has been around for a long time. But this system uses the most modern tech to make an incredibly efficient controller that uses a lot less power. All of these things, by the way, will be linked in the description. We also got to chat to Blues about their LoRaWAN and StarNote satellite cards, and we've talked about Blues stuff on the show a fair bit. For Wi-Fi and cellular, it's one of the easiest ways to get started. It talks to everything using JSON, but also you can talk to the people from Blues and get a really nice idea as to what they're doing. Everyone who I talked to on the floor and gave interviews to is just there on the floor to talk to people. So if you're there at Embedded World and you want to find out about something, you can speak to exactly the same kind of people that I have been interviewing there for years, and they will give you exactly the same treatment, tell you exactly the same things that I hear, which is fantastic, because if you have an interest with a very specific question that I'm not going to ask, they will be able to answer it for you. We were also there at exactly the moment they announced the Arduino Pro Potenta C33, for example, and got to chat to Stefano from Arduino in the moment of release. We saw a fantastic Nicola Pro demo with Andrea from Arduino showing how it can be used to classify things on the edge, classifying certain kinds of bugs that were on plants. And we saw the very first Amazon Sidewalk demo from Silicon Labs, all on the floor of Embedded World, all being taken through it by the very engineers who came up with these demos. So if you are interested in that kind of experience, check out the Embedded World website. You will find it linked in the description. And yes, it's a fantastic event. If you want to come to the one in Germany, Nuremberg is a wonderful historic city with a lot of beautiful edges to it. And of course, as I mentioned, they also have events in America and China. It is time to move on to funding website things, and we're going to start by talking about Whisker. And I've been very excited to talk about this one since I saw it go up on the pre-launch page. This is a follow-on to the Dev Kitty, I believe it's called, project, which is essentially, the comparison always has to be said because it's the thing that everybody knows. It's like a cheap open source, open hardware version of the Flipper Zero. This uses an ESP32 as the brains, and it is a full redesign of the DevKitty boards, and it's for prototyping and hacking Wi-Fi and Bluetooth devices, although it also has a USB port for pen testing using USB, and a stemmer/quick connector for adding any kind of different modules, any kind of different sensors that you want to it as well. Now this is something I'm vaguely familiar with because while I didn't manage to get to the workshop, I believe they were at the same teardown in Portland as I was, which is the Crowd Supply amazing event for hackers and just the coolest event I've ever been to. I absolutely loved it. And this is something they've been working on for a while and been running workshops on. It is tested in the wild, as it were. This is something that is a completely open source and open hardware project. Now, it is a pre-launch project, so as such, there's no price attached to it yet. We'll definitely be coming back to it. But this is one of the ones where I would suggest sticking your email address in there if you're remotely interested in any of this kind of stuff. They do also have a Discord server, which is linked on the page as well. But yeah, if you want to get your hands on a lovely little hacking device, oh, and it has 2 SMA sockets, by the way. It's probably obvious from what you're seeing here, but you can attach a pair of fairly chunky aerials to it as well. If you're looking into getting into the kind of penetration testing and learning about the wireless signals around you, there's a bunch of different devices that do this, but I think this may be the cutest so far. Up next, we have the BioData MIDI interface. Now, you have probably seen either on social media or on YouTube or on a variety of different maker and hacking sites that there have been several projects over the years that take the electronic signals that plants make and convert it into sound. I know for a fact there's at least one big social media presence that got a huge amount of followers doing it. I'm not sure what platform that was on. Can you tell I'm not very social media good at? But essentially, the electronic signals that plants make can be picked up with the right kind of sensors, and that can be converted into music or different kinds of sound or anything really. It's sensor data, but this specifically is designed to plug sensors attached to plants into one end and output MIDI or control voltage data at the other. MIDI, of course, being talking to computers, so there's a lot more information you can fit into it. If you have MIDI, for example, you can have up to 8 voices of polyphony. Control voltage being something that talks directly to modular synthesizers, it is actually a voltage. So I am assuming that the control voltage that comes out will just be monophonic, because I can't think of any other way that they would do that with one output. But one of the things I really like about this is just that it's a little box with a jog wheel on the side. There's very little complexity to it, but it seems to have been designed with a lot of care and attention to make sure that there is as little noise as possible when it comes to the sensor readings, and that those readings are converted cleanly into different sounds. And it says out of the box there's going to be a variety of different scales: major, minor, Indian, pentatonic. But again, this is going to be an open source project, so there's nothing to stop you hacking in whatever you want to come out of it. For me personally, I think one of the first things I'd want to do is just say, whatever comes from the plants, I want that data in as much detail as you can give me, whether it's MIDI data, whether it's control voltage data, so I can just get some weird sounds going and use that as a basis for a drone or a soundscape. And then, yeah, what's to stop you from outputting the CV to a modular synthesizer and getting some weird wobbly, drony sounds, and then the MIDI to a computer, and then crafting that MIDI to work around the sound of the synthesizer. There's a huge amount of stuff that you can do with it. You can tell, we're back to microcontrollers and music, aren't we? I always get way too enthusiastic. Now, this is a pre-launch project, so there's no price attached to it, and it does appear to be very early days. While the hardware prototypes look lovely, and I do appreciate the minimalism of it, there's things like a desktop app that is yet to be even built. So that's something that he's considering. If you're thinking of getting one of these things with the hope of there being a desktop app to make it easy to use, maybe wait until you see evidence of the desktop app appearing before you back it. But yes, we will, of course, as always, be coming back to this when it is no longer a pre-launch project, to look at prices, to see how the project is moving on, and to look at some of the updates from the creator. Something that you can easily do as well by adding your email address to the Crowd Supply page of any pre-launch page and get updates just for that project directly from the creator. Links to both of these will of course be in the description. That was our show for this week. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for your continued support. The Electromaker Show will return next week from yet another wild location. Who knows where we will be by that point. But until then, I'd like to thank you for your continued support. I'm always open to your suggestions as well. Please do join our Discord server if you would like to do that. I check my emails frequently, but I get such a huge amount of emails from different places at this point on my Electromaker address now that sometimes things do slip through the net. But Discord is a good place because you can find us on the Electromaker Discord channel and just post in the general hangout. You can tag me if you want to ask me a question directly, or even just send me a direct message. But for now, I hope you have a safe, fun and creative week, and I'll be back to chat to you soon.